शब्दांगणच्या 158व्या सत्रामध्ये मनपूर्वक स्वागत करतो आणि ॲज खरं तर सत्राचा सगळ्यांसाठीच इंटरेस्टिंग आहे आणि प्रत्येकाने आयुष्यात धडा घ्यावा असे काही सत्र असतात. त्यातलं खरं तर आजचं सत्र आणि केदार सारखा एबल माणूस ऍक्च्युली सत्र घेतोय. आय हॅव सीन हिज सेशन आणि ऍटिट्यूड मॅटर्सच्या बॅनर खाली केदारजी सत्र घेतो पर्सनॅलिटी डेव्हलपमेंटवर आणि आमच्या ध्रुवच्या पण स्टुडंटसाठी त्यांनी काही सत्र घेतलेली आहेत आणि इट हॅज बीन अ प्लेजर टू लिसन टू केदार. त्यामुळे आय वॉज ऑल्सो इगर, जसं मुकुंदराव मगाशी म्हणाले की आय एम इगर टू लिसन टू दिस पर्टिक्युलर सेशन, तर तसा आजचा आहे सत्र. थोडा फरक सत्रामध्ये आहे की इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड हे मल्टीलिंग्वल सत्र असेल असा अपेक्षा आहे. त्यामुळे इंग्लिश, मराठी, हिंदी, मला वाटतं तिन्ही भाषांमध्ये चालेल. प्रोबॅबली नोईंग केदार तर ते इंग्लिशमध्ये प्रामुख्याने चालेल अशी अपेक्षा आहे. आणि त्याच्यामुळे पण विदाऊट आता आणखीन आपला वेळ घेण्याच्या ऐवजी आपलं सत्र सुरू मी विनंती करतो की केदार यू कॅन स्टार्ट अँड इज ऑल युअर्स. आणि त्याच्या आधी आपण थोडी क्लिप पाहू आणि मग वी कॅन ऍक्च्युअली मूव्ह ऑन.
We'll do. I think we'll break open the session with that short film only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to go for a walk today. But should I go? You deserve a cheat day. So, no?
कल पक्का.
I think I'll have to go for a walk today. Am I looking fat? No, not really. So, no walk today?
कल पक्का.
I think he is looking fat today. But he just ate too much yesterday. Okay, then he will have to eat less today. So, no walk today?
कल पक्का.
Right, I guess directed, acted, and probably written by Kedar itself. So, and probably I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Kedar as a personality. ओळख करून देतेस केदार सरांची आणि मग आपण ऍक्च्युअली सेशन हँड ओव्हर करू.
चालेल. नमस्कार. शब्दांगणच्या 158व्या सत्रात आपल्या सगळ्यांचं मनापासून स्वागत करते. कल करे सो आज करे सो अब वगैरे आपण नेहमी म्हणत असतो, पण प्रत्यक्षात मात्र हातात घेतलेलं काम शेवटच्या क्षणापर्यंत पुढे पुढे ढकलत राहणं हा मानवी स्वभाव आहे. आणि याच प्रवृत्तीबद्दल भाष्य करणारं आजचं सत्र घ्यायला आपले आजचे वक्ते श्रीयुत केदार पटवर्धन आपल्यामध्ये उपस्थित आहेत. गेली 30 वर्ष केदारजी सेल्स अँड मॅनेजरियल सर्व्हिसेस म्हणजे विक्री आणि व्यवस्थापन क्षेत्रात कार्यरत आहेत. बजाज, मॉर्फी रिचर्ड्स, उषा, स्पिअर हॉट अशा वेगवेगळ्या नामांकित ब्रँडसाठी त्यांनी महत्वाच्या पदांचा कार्यभार सांभाळलेला आहे. मॉडर्न रिटेल, इन्स्टिट्यूशनल सेल्स, डायरेक्ट सेल्स अशा वेगवेगळ्या क्षेत्रांमधला त्यांचा अनुभव सुद्धा दांडगा आहे. त्यांच्या करिअरच्या प्रवासामध्ये गुणवत्ता व्यवस्थापन, मिशन एक्सेल अशा काही महत्वाच्या प्रकल्पांबरोबरच मॉर्फी रिचर्ड्स या नवीन ब्रँडच्या यशामध्ये सुद्धा केदारजींचं भरीव योगदान आहे. याच जोडीला केदारजी करिअर मार्गदर्शक म्हणून सुद्धा काम करत असतात. मला वाटतं हा झाला सरांचा औपचारिक परिचय, परंतु या करिअर मधल्या कारकिर्दीच्या जोडीनंच त्यांनी साहित्यामधली आपली रुची सुद्धा जपली आहे. आणि असं हे व्यासंगी दिलखुलास व्यक्तिमत्व आपल्या सगळ्यांमध्ये एक जी कमी अधिक प्रमाणात आढळणारी कल पक्का ही मनोवृत्ती आहे, जसं आपण शॉर्ट फिल्म मध्ये आता पाहिलं, त्याबद्दल बोलायला आपल्यामध्ये उपस्थित आहेत. तेव्हा अधिक वेळ न दवडता मी सरांनाच विनंती करते की त्यांनी सत्राला सुरुवात करावी.
धन्यवाद रिद्धी. Thank you, Vinod. Thank you, Shaunak, for making me a part of this Shabdangan. And definitely, I feel pleased to deliver out here. Friends, good evening. It's a mood evening, frankly. I'm sure you all have watched this short film just now, and you must have watched it carefully. You must have seen me procrastinating, and I'm sure that everyone must have felt that I'm your next door neighbor, because everyone does the procrastination. Almost 90% of the people who do procrastination, so there is nothing to feel shy about this particular syndrome. मराठी ट्रान्सलेशन, जसं मगाशी विनोद म्हणाला की याला मराठीमध्ये चाल ढकल प्रोक्रास्टिनेशनला म्हणता येतं. त्याच्यावरती एक रिसेंटली व्हॉट्सअप युनिव्हर्सिटीमध्ये एक जोक आला होता. चाल ढकल या शब्दावर एक शाळा असते आणि त्या शाळेमध्ये देयर इज अ क्लासरूम, आणि तिथे बाई मुलांना विचारतात की मुलांना मला चाल ढकल या शब्दाचा अर्थ कोणी सांगेल का? तर त्यात एक चुणचुणीत मुलगा पटकन उभा राहतो आणि तो म्हणतो, मॅडम उद्या सांगितलं तर चालेल. सो दिस इज हाऊ द प्रोक्रास्टिनेशन गेट्स डिफाइंड, आणि इट्स अ मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टंट बिहेवियरल इफेक्ट, बट ऑलवेज perceived as most difficult to tackle. प्रोक्रास्टिनेशन टॅकल करायचं म्हणजे खूप अवघड आहे असं जनरल अंडरस्टँडिंग आहे, आणि ते खरं पण आहे. पण मग त्यासाठी काय काय करता येईल, दॅट इज व्हॉट वी नीड टू लुक ॲट. बिकॉज व्हॉट आय हॅव ऑब्झर्व्ड ड्युरिंग 30 years of my professional career, I've come across thousands of individuals having a variety of beliefs and behavioral patterns, and all of them, they have reasons for behaving or carrying those kind of beliefs. Since I have had the passion to observe things and the ability to translate, I thought of taking a deep dive into this attitude management. And while I was trying to make this attempt, I discovered that procrastination, म्हणजे ज्याला आपण चाल ढकल म्हणतो, procrastination happens to be the most important and vulnerable attribute, which to an extent has made it has been a break or make situation for a lot of professionals. When I'm saying this, everyone is a victim of this procrastination, but everyone wants to have a magical solution to it, which is not possible. I've seen people underperforming because of procrastination. I've also seen people eventually becoming redundant into their careers. So severe is going to be the impact of procrastination if it is not handled in time. This is just to give the seriousness of the issue. That is why I thought I must express about it. Friends, there is a small story which I would like to elaborate, or I would like to put forward. The story is of boiled frog. Many of us can have a look at, you can search for a video on the YouTube for this boiled frog. There are two kinds of experiments which have been done. First experience is you hold a frog and drop it into the boiling hot water. Now what happens is, because it's a different kind of a situation the frog observes, he suddenly decides to jump out, and that is how he responds and comes out of that pot, comes out of that boiling hot water. Now there is another scenario where you have a frog, ज्याला आपण बेडूक मेंढक म्हणतो. That frog is what you have to keep it into a pot. You have to fill that pot with water with room temperature and then provide a heat from beneath. The moment आपने उसको heat provide करने के बाद, you will find that the frog starts making slight movements. The tendency of a frog, fortunately, is to adjust with any temperature. If there is a rise in the temperature, you will find the frog adjusting to it. If there is a fall in the temperature, the frog will adjust to it. But despite all this, for every time you will find there is a rising temperature, the frog would like to adjust. He keeps doing it again and again and again and again till the time the water gets boiling hot. And now the steam starts coming up. The water starts getting converted into a steam. And now the frog, despite he has got a strong wish to come out, he is not in a position to do it because all his organs, they are caught up with the numbness. And now he is not in a position to come out. And that this is what is the example of the redundancy which I am talking about, which happens because of procrastination. Because when the water was getting hot, at the right time, a right decision of coming out was not taken by the frog. And that is how you will find this happens in the lives of many professionals, many individuals. And that is why we need to be more careful while we look at or deal with procrastination. I came across a book called The Goal by Eddie Goldratt. All those people who are into processes probably might have heard of name called Eddie Goldratt and the book called The Goal. There are two books which he has written. One is The Goal and second is The Goal 2. Eddie Goldratt, he is the one who invented the theory of constraints. And I would say I was fortunate to implement this theory of constraints in one of the organizations where I worked as a part of the project. Eddie Goldratt says that there are 4 principles predominantly which are most important, and that is what he believes and promotes. First principle is principle of goodness. He believes that everyone is good by heart. Everyone is good. Everyone would like to behave in good sense. The second principle is principle of simplicity. Everyone would like to be as simple as possible. The processes also should be as simple as possible. There is a third principle, that is principle of harmony. He says people expect harmony all around in general. And the fourth principle is every problem can be resolved. For every problem, there is a solution. When I was going through this actually provoked me to think that with all this being there, would anybody deliberately behave weird way or an absurd way and get into a trap of procrastination? There must be valid reasons why this procrastination happens. And that is how one has to start connecting the dots to find out a right answer for this. This journey is going to be a concept understanding of procrastination. Then we also would like to have simple common wisdom, and then we would arrive at the approach to be adopted or the remedies what we can have to handle this procrastination. I reached to a conclusion that it's a behavioral effect. When we are talking about an effect, obviously there would be cause. Let's say for example, जब हम डॉक्टर के पास चले जाते हैं तो डॉक्टर को हम कहते हैं कि आई हैव अ टेम्परेचर. जब हम उस डॉक्टर को ये बताते हैं तो डॉक्टर स्टार्ट्स आस्किंग कपल ऑफ क्वेश्चंस. वो आपको पूछता है आपने कल कुछ खाया था, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट यू वर देयर इनटू यस्टरडे. He tries to find out the causes so that he understands the effect and he can provide you with the right solution. So similarly, this behavioral effect of procrastination also has got number of causes. We would definitely like to go through those causes. The root causes are most important. As I remember, I'm sure you also might have come across. He understands the effect and he can provide you. Yeah. I'm sure we all must have undergone certain situations like this. I'm sure nowadays there are people who have been surfing for long hours in the night. up to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whether it is product, without even thinking of whether it is a productive move or not. Whether we all know that it is unproductive, but still we get into that trap. I remember when I was a bachelor, and when there used to be holidays, I used to spend almost 8 to 10 hours in front of a television. Absolutely aimless and unproductive job, but we used to do it. Why these kind of actions they happen, and we promote them? Definitely this also has got reasons. We will see that during our session. Now, as far as procrastination is concerned, who must understand the procrastination and who should be interested in finding out solutions? Frankly speaking, each and everyone, from students to employees to individuals, and especially the line managers and entrepreneurs also, because the monitoring managers also must know and understand why their subordinates or their team members do procrastinate and probably underperform. As I said, underperforming is one of the effect of procrastination. Friends, ultimately, why is it that we have to think about avoiding procrastination? Because ultimately we all want to be valuable. We want to create a value. We want to be valuable and not vulnerable. So our journey would be to understand this procrastination. Since we have firmed up that it's a behavioral effect, let's look at how the behavior formation also happens. Could you all see this?
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. Friends, procrastination, the title is a delaying tactics. Of course it is. How the behavioral formation happens. As a human being, we all have attitudes and we all have abilities. In combination of attitude and ability, in collaboration of attitude and ability, which are various behavioral patterns which are formed up, is what it is very interesting to have a look at this. We have an attitude, that means vritti, and we have an ability, that is kshamata. Let's say, for example, we have an attitude and ability on the X and Y axis, and that is how the matrix gets formed. And there are 4 quadrants, as you could see. When we talk about attitude, that means there are 2 options. Either I will do a particular job or I will not do a particular job. That is what attitude talks about. What happens to ability? Either I can, मैं करू शकतो, or I cannot, या मैं कर नहीं सकता. That means attitude, where I will or I will not, and ability will denote I can and I cannot. Now, for example, typically, if we look at all these 4 quadrants, the first quadrant would depict, it would show all of us can and will. I can, that means I have an ability, and I will. I also have a right attitude to perform or carry out a particular job. What happens with the quadrant number 2? I can, but I will not. I have an ability to carry out a particular function, an event, activity, or a job, but I will not do it. Sounds very strange, but more than 75 to 80% of the people, they have this phenomenon. They can, but they will not. Then the third quadrant says, I cannot, but I will. I do not have the ability, but still on the basis of strong attitude, I will carry out the work. And then the last one is cannot and will not. Now the quadrant number 4 is cannot and will not, which is considered to be worst. And the quadrant number 1 is can and will, which is liked by everybody. But is it that we are going to do away with these people? No. Let us, for example, try and understand where is it that we place ourselves. Are we in the quadrant of can but will not? Or we are into can and will, or we are into cannot and will not? There are very few people who are found into cannot and will not, but they are required to be migrated from this quadrant to can but will not. How it can be done? When we try to improve upon their abilities, then they can but will not. And simultaneously, the cannot and will not people also should be migrated to quadrant number 3 by improving onto their attitudes so that they get into cannot but will. And eventually, we want everybody to get into quadrant number 1. Not a very easy job, but that is what we all are hopeful about. Now, how does it get translated into a behavior? Let's say, for example, we have 4 quadrants again, the first, second, third, and fourth. The first quadrant, which actually talked about can and will, these are the people who are actually the go-getters. And these are the self-motivated people. They don't need external motivation. Motivation for them is within themselves. What happens with the quadrant number 2? These are the people who are the excuse masters. अरे बहुत बारिश गिर रही है, अब मैं बाहर नहीं जाऊंगा. बहुत ज्यादा धूप है, इसलिए मैं बाहर नहीं जाऊंगा. कल रात को काफी लेट से सोया था, इसीलिए सुबह में जल्दी नहीं उठ पाऊंगा या नहीं उठूंगा. And they have all kind of delay tactics. And these are the people who are actually the procrastinators. So this is how we should be able to locate the procrastinators, and we have to locate them within ourselves as well. There are special people, let's say for example, those who have played Paralympics, someone doesn't have a leg, someone has got a broken hand, it is replaced by the artificial one, and still they have carried out the games. So these are the people who are not able, but still they have a strong attitude and will, because of which they perform. And the last one, they are inaction and crying babies. Now these crying babies, we want to convert them into first excuse masters. Also, we have to convert them into cannot but will. And then all of them, we want to take them to go-getters or self-motivated people. Now, these are the kind of people which are required everywhere. And this is where these are the people who are self-motivated and go-getters. Let us also understand, since we have talked about attitudes and abilities, who have been a part of behavior formation, let us understand attitude little more deeply. We all know the prism. We have studied it in standard 8th or 9th, and we know that there is going to be a polychromatic light. When it is passed through a prism, it gives 7 different colors, the arrays of 7 different colors. That means the 7 colors put together, they make a white color. So in this case, let us assume that attitude is representing white color. Attitude is passed through a prism of mind. And what is it that emerges out? There are beliefs. Beliefs, maybe beliefs about likes and dislikes. Something, we have beliefs about religion, we have beliefs about caste, we have certain do's and don'ts, what we have decided right from our childhood. The way we are brought up in a particular environment, there are very strong beliefs which get developed. These beliefs are not very easy to be removed. Over a period of time, these beliefs, they take a shape of a brick tree. And as much as the tree which is there above the soil, उतना ही इसके roots जो है, ये जमीन के नीचे होते हैं. और इसीलिए ये beliefs को change करना बहुत difficult हो जाता है. Then there is the second array is of thoughts. These beliefs, they give a birth to the thoughts. These thoughts, they become actions. Attitude has got all these parameters: beliefs, thoughts, actions. Then there is something called as behavior. They form a behavior, regular actions. Then they get converted into a habit. And then because of these habits, you get an identity, or you are known as a person. And ultimately it creates value. So attitude has got a lot of arrays. There could be a few more. Something what occurred to my mind, I have just jotted down. But attitude comprises of beliefs, thoughts, actions, behavior, habits, identity or personality, and value. Now, if this is how we have understood attitude, what are the personality attributes? Now, let's say, for example, we have an attitude and we all firmly believe that it is very difficult to change the attitude. But it's not all that true. With the help of approach, little change in the approach, marrying with abilities and skills, we definitely have a hope that we can change the attitude. Why is it that we are talking about changing this attitude? Because this is what is going to help us while dealing with an issue of procrastination. Because attitude comprises of lot many attributes, attitude becomes important for us when we deal with issue of procrastination. So with a change in approach, we'll see what is the kind of approach we need to adopt so that we can change the attitude, and this changed attitude helps us in dealing with the procrastination. When we talk about attitude, and when we have been talking about beliefs, where have these beliefs they come from? What are the sources? What is the source of these beliefs? There are three different parameters who are actually influencing the belief system: the environment, the education, and the experience. Environment contributes to as high as 45%. This percentage don't get carried away by, because this could be little here and there. What I've done is I've done an exercise for myself. I've jotted down the list of people whom I know, those whom I know, not necessarily they must know me. Now, all the people who have come in contact with me because of environment, there could be certain people whom I know and I follow, and I try to imitate them. Those are the kind of people what we have included in the environment. Now, there are people whom I have got in touch with, I've come in contact with because of education, and the people whom I have got in contact with because of experience. Now, the environment actually is making a lot of difference in the lives of all of us, especially when the attitude development takes place and the belief systems are formed. This is a background information is what we are trying to understand so that we come down to a problem of procrastination. All these three, if you'll see, they work in collaboration with each other: experience, environment, and education. Friends, when we try to define attitude, how is it that we need to firm up our identities because of attitude? If someone is asking you who you are, if somebody is asking us who you are, then the thumb rule and the answer is you are supposed to be an average of 5 persons around you. When I say this, average of 5 persons around you, that means those people whom you are in regular contact with, and those are the people who are actually influencing your behavior. Now, when we talk about influencing a behavior, it means a lot with attitudes and behavior both. We will see how it happens. So that is why it is said that you are known by the company you keep. If you have to understand what is the kind of company I have, let us take a stock of last 5 years. पिछले 5 साल में हमने क्या किया है? That is what we need to understand.
कलूने एक लिंक पाठवली आहे. कलू.
If we take a stock of last 5 years, we come to know where we stand and whether I need to change my company or whether should I continue with the people whom I am associated with. It will give you a clear picture. Do the beliefs shift? Is there a shift in the belief? The shift in the belief may be possible because of the education, experience, and environment. And if there is a possibility that the beliefs can be shifted, then we have an easy way to find solutions for the procrastination. Friends, look at this picture. There is something called as my attitude, and there is something called as your attitude. This is what we are talking about, interpersonal behavioral relationships, and how it is going to impact, how it is going to affect. Let's see my attitude and your attitude. Obviously, my attitude, I also have my own behavior. Now, my attitude is probably the internal one, but behavior is something which could be seen, which could be evidently seen. It's an external factor. So, at my attitude will make an impact, or it will affect my behavior, obviously, and my behavior will impact or affect your attitude. Now, what happens is your attitude definitely would impact your behavior, and your behavior, which is externally seen, when I observe you through your behavior, it will have an impact on my attitude. So this is how the circle is. When two people deal with each other, it is the attitude and behavior which is actually making an impact. My attitude with my behavior, my behavior with your attitude, obviously your behavior, and your behavior, when I observe it, it starts affecting my attitude, the way I look at things when I consider you. So this is how the cycle is. It is just an understanding of behavior, because change in behavior is what is going to be very useful when we deal with procrastinations. Now, if you all remember the quadrant number 2, which said, I can, but I will not. I can do a particular set of things, but I will not do it. I won't do it. Because although I have an ability, I don't have a proper attitude to carry out the function. So it comes out very clearly that I do not do something which I know I am supposed to do. This is one statement, one set of statement. I don't do something which I know I am supposed to do. At the same time, many a times it happens that I do something which I know I am not supposed to do. Let's say, for example, sitting in front of a television for 8 to 10 hours. Unproductive work. But I do that. I do that which I know that I'm not supposed to do it. And in this case, I don't do certain things. There are a lot of responsibilities I have. There are a lot of things which I'm supposed to do, but I don't do something which I know I'm supposed to do. Now, there is typically a title to this called as akrasia. Now, how to deal with this akrasia? Very important, because when we talk about procrastination, when we talk about these kind of situations, it's very important that we must deal with these situations. Now, akrasia, when we talk about, how do we deal with this? Now, if you take the stock of the statement called, I don't do something which I know I am supposed to do. This happens with 90% of the people. There is nothing to worry about if we are getting through this procrastination issue. And this is exactly what is called as procrastination. Not doing something which we know we are supposed to do. Now, if we know that what is procrastination, then we also must understand what are the factors that attribute to procrastination, or all those which contribute to this procrastination. Let us understand, why do people procrastinate? First of all, the most commonly expressed answer, the most common answer is lethargy. ज्याला आपण आळस म्हणतो. It's a very common answer that procrastination happens because of lethargy. Of course, it is one of the reasons, but this is not the only reason. Lethargy is what? It is only basically a tendency to postpone. Not now, kal karenge, baad mein karenge, ab nahi karenge. So we keep doing this with lot many issues. So lethargy could be one of the reasons why we procrastinate. There could be a lot of other reasons. Let's say, for example, a choice. When when we are meant to do certain jobs, what is it that what is it that as a priority we select the jobs? We always tend to select the easier ones, which we would like to do first, and we try to avoid the difficult ones. So we exercise our choice, and choice becomes one of the reasons why we procrastinate things. If I have no choice and I have only difficult ones to do, I will do only the difficult ones. But given a choice, we choose the easier ones. And that is what leads to the procrastination. Ignorance, very important. And why this ignorance happens? Friends, typically after the teenage, you will find children, they would like to be independent. Independent in terms of thoughts, independence, they want freedom of thoughts, they want freedom of behavior. They would not like to have the control of someone else, so they don't like to be told anything by someone, and they would like to have control of their own life. Now, out of all this, they tend to ignore certain things. So ignorance becomes the cause of procrastination. What else? A careless attitude. We have seen in the fourth quadrant people having the behavior of cannot and will not, that pattern. These are the people who are actually careless. So because of the careless attitude also, we just ignore. We are careless about it. So we procrastinate. Then we say that not now, we will do it later. Lack of focus. Because there is a careless attitude, the focus is lost. There is no focus. Lack of knowledge, very important. If I am asked to do a particular job and I have no knowledge about it, obviously it's a disability. I am not in a position to do something because I don't know what to do and how to carry out the job. So lack of knowledge also is one of the reasons why the procrastination happens. Because there is lack of knowledge, there is a lack of confidence. I'm not confident of doing something. So what I do, naturally, I try to postpone the work. I just decide to do it little later, not now. So because of lack of confidence also I do procrastinate. Lack of clarity. I have not been told as to how it has to be done. I am only dumped into a circle and asked to perform. If there is no clarity, obviously there is no direction, there is no navigation, and that is why I try to procrastinate. Because I don't want to tell people that I have no knowledge. I don't want to explore to people that I have no clarity. I can't admit that I have no confidence. So better way is to postpone the job or procrastinate. Lack of decision making ability. I will not be able to take any decision because I have no clarity. There is always a fear to perform. There is always a fear to fail also. What happens if I fail? What happens if I fail and people would make a fun out of me? Because there is a lack of confidence, I have a fear to perform. And because I have a fear to perform, even if I try to perform, I have a fear to fail. So it is better to avoid to perform. So that is the reason why we also do procrastinate. At times there is internal resistance. As I said, beliefs. There are certain beliefs I have, certain things I'm supposed to do, certain things I'm not supposed to do is what has been told, and I'm brought up in a particular fashion. I'm taught about it. So those beliefs, they come in a way and they create a lot of resistance for me to carry out a particular job or a work. There are, of course, there are likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes also create a lot of internal resistance. And the last one, which came to my mind is the misalignment. Many a times it happens that we want to do something and we land up doing something. We are forced to do certain things. which we have never thought of doing it, or we have decided never to do it. So if that happens, there is again a resistance and there is a misalignment of my own expectations of doing certain things. And that is why I try to avoid doing that job, or I try to postpone it. And these are the reasons why we try to procrastinate. Lethargy is not the only reason. Very conveniently, we say the person is lethargic, that is why he is procrastinating. Not necessarily always. There are a lot of other options. There are a lot of other attributes like choice, ignorance, careless attitude. There is a lack of focus, knowledge, confidence, and clarity. We are not in a position to make decisions, and we don't want to tell this to people. We don't want this to get evident to the people that I don't know something. So these are the reasons why people do procrastinate. I hope you all are with me on this up till now. Now there are certain bad effects of the procrastination. What are those? Friends, when I said I've come across people, my acquaintances, people whom I know very well, as my colleagues also, I've seen bad effects of procrastination. When I said people become redundant, they underperform because of this. What happens is there is an opportunity loss, number one. There is a loss of career and growth because of if this procrastination is pulled on more than required. If we don't stop procrastinating at a right time, and of course, it also ends up into a financial loss for an individual. So it's very fatal. We must deal with this issue very, very seriously. Because our identity also gets created that I'm no good. There is a loss of integrity and credibility for others, in front of others. And because we feel that I have been failing everywhere, nobody wants me, nobody likes me, there is a loss of integrity and credibility. That is how there is a stress building also which happens. This happens. If you get in touch with counselors, you will always get to know that these kind of issues, while handling the stress management, they come to the root cause and they realize that many times it is because of the procrastination. Now they also have a distracted life. We have seen the hot water frog, the boiled water frog. What happens to that frog who wants to come out of it, but he is unable to come out of that hot boiling water because his organs are not supporting him to come out of it. Although he has got a very strong will, but the body doesn't support. So that's precisely how it happens. Now, if it is so, then what are the kind of approaches we should have to deal with these kind of situations? What are the various approaches which we all should adopt? There is a favorite approach of mine, which I have designed it myself. It's a sequel which acts one after the other, and it starts with initiative. Friends, taking initiative is one of the most important step what we all must exercise. During our school days, वर्गांमध्ये मला 3 व्हॉलंटियर पाहिजेत म्हणून टीचर विचारायचे. And every time everyone used to push somebody else. They used to suggest somebody else's name. Ideally, whenever this kind of a situation occurs, even in your corporate life, if somebody is asking for volunteers, raise your voice, raise your hands, immediately get up from the chair and say, yes, I am willing to do this particular job. So you have to volunteer yourself. You have to volunteer yourself only with an understanding that if not now, then when? And if not me, then who else? If you have this particular approach, obviously it will help you to volunteer yourself for any project. I'll give you a small example of initiative, how the initiative happens. हमारे में से बहुत सारे लोग बॉम्बे के ट्रेन्स में ट्रैवल कर चुके हैं, and especially the busiest station in Mumbai is Dadar. Whether it is central or whether it is western wing, the busiest station is Dadar. And normally on the platform number 1, you will find all these slow trains traveling. And on the platform number 4, there are fast trains which are routed towards Kalyan, Dombivli, Karzat, Kasara, and so on. Now let's imagine a situation where I am standing on the platform number 1. And suddenly there is an announcement, कल्याण जाने वाली फास्ट लोकल प्लेटफॉर्म नंबर 4 पे आ रही है. एंड देन सडनली आई रियलाइज आई एम इन हरी, मुझे बहुत जल्दी घर पहुंचना है. सो आई थिंक दैट आई मस्ट ऑप्ट फॉर दिस ऑप्शन ऑफ फास्ट ट्रेन ऑन प्लेटफॉर्म नंबर 4. So immediately I take a decision. I start running. There is a lot of rush. I start banging people. I start bashing on people. There is a lot of luggage which is lying onto the platform. I start jumping over it. Then I reach the staircase. Same thing happens. There is a lot of rush again. I start banging on people. I get up to the stairs. I get up onto the bridge. I travel the entire bridge. I get down on platform number 4 from the stairs. And then suddenly I realize obviously that I have a first class pass. I must look for a first class compartment. So on the platform number 4 also, I try to so on the platform number 4 also, on platform number, I'm sorry, on the platform number 4 also, I keep bashing with people and I reach that compartment of first class. आप ऐसे वक्त देखना, लोग आपको they make a way for you, क्योंकि उनको पता होता है कि उनको खुद को तो जल्दी है नहीं, but at least जिसको जल्दी है उसको तो जाने दो. Typically in Bombay this happens. So I get into a compartment of first class. I jump inside. From the passage I get into the aisle. I stand in the aisle for some time. After 4 stations, maybe after Ghatkopar, I get a seat. And then after Thane, I get a window seat, जिसको ट्रेन के लैंग्वेज में मोक्ष पाना बोलते हैं. How does this all happen? Just try and understand. Just try and think about this. Somebody standing on platform number 1, getting onto platform number 4, getting into a first class compartment, crossing the passage, all kinds of rush, all kinds of blocks, fighting with all that. You get into aisle, get a seat, get a window seat, and travel further. This whole thing happens only because of the initiative which you could take. And this is what happens with every new activity. Try and understand this. And this is how we must deal with this. And we must all take the initiative. Now, the moment we take initiative, we have natural abilities. They come forward. They try to help us. And the moment we start doing a lot of things, it gives us the confidence to perform. Now, what happens? This gets translated into involvement. Now, initiative जो था, अब वो involvement में बदल गया. Now, initiative creates involvement. Now, this involvement, repeatedly doing certain things, it motivates us. It motivates us, so we try to do those things again and again. So there is a consistency which comes into it. So initially we have an initiative with a lot of discipline. We get into a new activity. We have ability, confidence. We get involved. Because we get involved, we are motivated, and it creates a lot of passion. And when this creates a passion, we get into a mode of setting objectives and setting goals. Then we start setting goals for ourselves. मैं ये करूंगा, मैं वो करूंगा, इतने दिन में मैं ये करूंगा. This is what I will achieve. Now, this all happens because of the passion. And then this is where your ability gets transformed into a skill. So in a lesser time, you start performing better. This passion will bring in lot of ownership. कल चल के आपको whatever job or a project you are doing, if somebody is objecting it with lot of ownership, you will try to fight across with all those people and try to convince them. So here the ownership will bring your skill and talent. Once you take ownership, your skill and talent will be utilized, and ultimately, because of the motivation what you get out of ownership, you will get successful. So friends, keep one thing in mind. This is the sequel which can be used always. This is the sequence which gets practiced. Try and see for yourself whenever something happens. If you are successful, it is only because you have taken the initiative. Because you have taken the initiative, your involvement has gone up. Because your involvement has gone up, it has created a lot of passion within you to do certain things. Then you start running after your objectives. This passion drives you to run after the objectives. Now this brings in a lot of ownership, and the ownership always takes you to the success. Friends, this sequel, if you look at, there is a very typical trio which you all must have seen: conceive, believe, and achieve. If you see, the first activity of initiative is where the conceiving takes place. In the second, involvement and passion, if you look at the involvement, passion, and ownership, this particular section is where you start believing in whatever you are doing. And that is how ultimately you achieve something which you wanted to. You get a success and you achieve what you wanted to. So this is what can be exercised or implemented when we try to deal with the procrastination. So do it. Take initiative. What other approaches? We have jobs, activities, events, projects to carry out. Although they look very ugly as the frogs. मेंढक के उतना ugly दिखते हैं. But we have to eat those frogs and carry out the assignments. इसका मतलब, then what are the kind of approaches which we have to carry out the assignments? Fine, friends, when we talk about a concept of eating the frog, there is also a similar analogy of a frog. Continuously, when we have to do a particular job to achieve the success, there was a king and there was a princess, and the princess is not getting married. Uski shadi nahi ho rahi. So obviously the king was worried, and king talked to the priest and said, "Yaar, ye princess ki shadi to ho nahi rahi hai, and I want a suitable prince. So how do we go about it?" Priest said, "Look, if you want the princess to get married, be ready. Ask the princess to be ready to kiss 100 frogs. 100 मेंढक को kiss करना पड़ेगा. Then afterwards you will get a prince." Princess agrees to this and she starts kissing all the frogs. So after she has kissed 100 frogs, there is 101st frog which gets converted into a prince. So friends, we have to keep trying, we have to make attempts, we have to keep those 100, we have to keep kissing those 100 frogs to get the 101st frog get converted as a prince. Now, since we have been talking about frogs again and again, there is a concept of eating that frog. Now, this is where you will have Brian Tracy. How many of you have heard this name? Many of you must have heard a name called Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy is the one who has written a fabulous book on this called Eat That Frog. And he has also suggested 21 remedies. He has got 21 ways to avoid the procrastination. We are not going to go through all 21. It's an interesting book. You all must read. Basically a very concise book of 120 pages, but it is huge on content, believe me. It talks about the change management, and he says that everyone has got a frog to eat. That is what Brian Tracy says. If you look at Brian Tracy, his history has been quite surprising. He was an undergraduate, then joined door-to-door sales. He did certain laboring jobs also. Then he became a sales manager. Eventually, he rose within the company at a vice president level. And then he changed 25 organizations and he created his own organization. And he's one of the best trainers across the world. Now, Brian Tracy, his remedies, you can get it through this book. Ask someone to give this book to you if you don't want to buy it yourself. The first thing what he talked about is eating the frog and begin with the worst. When he says this, he says frog is a task. You have to consider the frog as a task. And then he says there are two rules to be followed. The first rule is that if you have to eat two frogs, eat the most ugliest one first. What we observed that we try to do the easy jobs first. He says, pick up the difficult jobs first, because you keep doing easy jobs which are not of much importance, and the difficult jobs which are important are kept aside for no reason. So he says if you have to eat two frogs, then eat the ugliest one first. And then he says there is another rule. If you have to eat a live frog, then don't keep staring at it. Because more you stare at it, it will start looking more ugly. If it looks more ugly, you would never eat it. That means you will never be able to take up a task. So obviously you will never be able to complete the task. So these are the two rules which he talks about. He says frog is a task. Begin with the worst. Pick up the ugliest frog first if you have to. And then if you have to eat a live frog, then don't keep staring at it, because it would start looking more ugly and you won't eat it. So just pick up the frog and eat it immediately. That's what is suggested. He also says that you must plan the task in advance. When we are talking about planning, we are actually trying to get the future to the present. We try to get the future to the present, and then we start thinking as to how should I carry out this particular job. So Alan Lakin says that planning is bringing the future to the present so that you can do something about it now. And adversely, if you look at taking action without thinking things, it's a prime source of problems for you. This is what is said by Alec McKenzie. So both these statements are important. One is that if you don't plan, if you don't try to bring the future to the present, then there is an issue. And taking action without thinking things through a prime source of problems. It's a prime source of problem for you if you are not taking action without thinking. It is always believed that if you spend time in planning, if 1 minute is what spent in planning, then you are saving 10 to 12 minutes of the execution. We always say that if you have to cut the tree, you sharpen the axe for 12 hours. There are 6 P's. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. It says proper prior planning, it will prevent the poor performance. So this is what is the remedy suggested for planning the task in advance. There is another approach, there is another remedy which is suggested of ABCDE. This is very interesting. Brian says you have a lot of pending jobs and normally you keep making list of pending jobs. But the way you must make a list of your pending jobs should be in a particular order. The task A should be, you must have a must do kind of jobs which are your big frogs to eat. Then the task B, there could be tadpoles which are should do kind of things, but there will it will not matter much if you fail on that. But the task A where there could be serious problems if you don't do. So those must do should be done first. He also suggests if the task A, you can have within task A, you can have A1, A2, A3. And until you complete all those three, you should not approach task B. Then he also says task C would be nice if you do, not necessarily. And he says the task D, you should delegate. You have written it in your list, but you are not supposed to do these jobs. So either you delete or you delegate. And then he says whatever categorization you have done for task E, you should eliminate them. These were never your jobs. So it is must do, should do, nice to do, delegate or delete, and eliminate. So this is how he says you set the priority of your pending jobs. This will become easier for you, and then you will never get into a trap of procrastination. Because if you are doing difficult jobs first, it gives you a different kind of a confidence to carry out next other jobs. Very interesting again, applying the principle of 80-20. You all must have heard of this Pareto principle. There was a person called Pareto who discovered this. He believed that out of total 100, only 20% of the issues are vital few, and balance 80% are trivial many, not of much importance. So what is important is those 20% which are vital few, and those are the ones which we always need to concentrate. Don't take the entire plethora of issues. Select vital fews, and that we should have a wisdom to select which are those important ones which are going to matter to me, or because of not doing them, it will create an issue for me. As we all must have seen, often 20% vital few activities, they contribute to 80% of the results. If you have to check, 20% of the customers typically they get 80% of the sales. You can ask any businessman, he will get you this. The top 20% of the products, they contribute to 80% of profits. And top 20% of activities also ensure 80% of the results. So that is why if you want to get 80% of the results, you need to attack 20% of the activities. So that is how setting up of priorities has been defined. There's something called as creative procrastination. There's some, he suggests you should do procrastination, but it should be creative. It should be for low-key items that you should do procrastination. You should delay those low-key items purposefully. There is something called as priority. The way we have priority, which are to be, there are certain things which are to be done immediately. There is something called as posteriorities also. Posteriority. Something which is to be done at a later date. So priority versus posteriority, we should be able to say no. We have to develop a habit to say no to the low-key items. So something which is required to be done later, you use the creative procrastination and try to delay the low-key items. So in short, creative procrastination means deciding deliberately on the things which you are not wanting to do or which you are not going to do. So this is yet another suggestion of dealing with the procrastination. What happens when we try to eliminate all the procrastinations by these approaches, by various remedies we try to apply? We try to imbibe, we try to borrow, we try to bring in a lot of approaches which we talked about, 80-20 or maybe ABCD approach, or plan your task in advance. All these things, what are the benefits of doing this? What happens is, there is a major impact which you will find it on work practices. You will find there is an improvement in the efficiency. It brings a lot of self-discipline in your behavior. It will enhance your productivity. Of course, it will do certain job in time management, and it will avoid stress building. So friends, when we are talking about the effects, we are also talking about the benefits if we are in a position to deal with the procrastination in a right manner. And timely dealing with this procrastination is quite important. So to summarize or come to end with this, we should be able to make our life valuable and save it from being it vulnerable. Thank you, friends. That's all about procrastination from my side. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Kedar.
Yeah, Vinod.
प्रेझेंटेशन थांबवू शकलो तर मग मी पूर्ण स्क्रीन मध्ये दिसेल. आणि
What is that?
if you can stop presentation, I don't know actually if you or Shaunak who is playing the presentation.
No, I've done that.
We are still seeing the presentation.
No, I know. Yep.
Yes, if you have any कोणाला काही questions असतील तर we can take it up. I believe. खूप छान झालं.
मला प्रश्न विचारायचे नाहीयेत, फक्त एक दोन शब्द बोलायचे आहेत की केदारनी आज खूप छान प्रकारे हा विषय मांडलेला आहे आणि तो कुठल्याही विषयामध्ये कोणालाही कशाही प्रकारे कन्व्हिन्स करू शकतो हे मला माहिती होतं, पण आज मी प्रत्यक्ष अनुभव घेतलाय. केदार खूप छान झालं. आणि मुख्य म्हणजे ना, फ्रॉग हा खूप किळसवाणाचा प्रकार आहे, पण त्यालाच हेड ऑफ द स्टोरी म्हणूया आपण, त्याला ठेवून तू त्याच्याभोवती किंवा त्याच्याबद्दलची इतकी सुंदर उदाहरणं दिलीस की तो किळसवाणा प्रकार आम्ही विसरून गेलो आणि त्या उदाहरणांमध्ये खूप छान आम्ही एन्जॉय केलं, अडकत राहिलो. खूप मस्त. आणखीन एक म्हणजे केदारची त्रिसूत्री किंवा चतुर्सूत्री किंवा पंचसूत्री असं म्हणूया, ही त्याची स्पेशालिटी आहे आणि आज त्यांनी ते खूप छान चांगल्या पद्धतीनं मांडलेलं आहे. सो नेक्स्ट टाइम अशी सुंदर सुंदर उदाहरणं तू घेऊन ये वेगळ्या वेगळ्या विषयांवर, मला ऐकायला आवडेल. सो ऑल द बेस्ट. थँक्यू.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Vaishali.
Yes, Mukul has some question.
Yeah, please, Mukul.
येस सर, खूपच सुंदर झालं सत्र.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
मला ऍक्च्युअली दोन प्रश्न असे होते सर.
Please.
Firstly, we see that in today's time, like this is something which I think you have experienced. There is an uncertainty in life. Okay, so many a times we are tempted to do more interesting things today. For example, if there is some sort of smoker, he would like to have his best cigarette or best puff today. Or if someone is a foodie, he would like to have his best food item consumed today. And in that process, he just likes to avoid all his necessary tasks, and he likes to delay it, like from tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So ही जी टेम्पटेशन्स आहेत यांना कशा प्रकारे आपण हाताळू शकतो, हा माझा पहिला प्रश्न होता.
Okay. If you look at what we have seen is, one is a matter of choice, something which can be easily dealt with, or there are certain things which are very difficult to handle. One is that it's a matter of choice. Second is procrastination as an issue has got very less to do with time. It has got a lot to do with the mind and emotions. So it's a matter of taking a decision of quitting something. Now, for example, if you take for my example, I have been a very persistent regular smoker, and I was a heavy smoker with a lot of difficulties, but it is not the time which decided as to how should I leave smoking. It is the very strong mind and emotions which decided that no more I should do smoking. So it has got the two things. One is that it has got nothing to do with the time, but it has got a lot to do with your willpower and emotions. And secondly, as I said, normally we tend to carry out the easy jobs first. We have to look at the importance of that job rather than looking at it whether it's an easy job or a difficult job to do. I hope it has answered your question.
Yes, sir. And
Yeah.
my second question was that excellent presentation, and many times we see that there are a lot of YouTube videos and books from that we
Yep.
can gain this knowledge. But the main problem, which I think is the part of sustenance, in spite of listening to all the best lectures and speakers, or even when our parents and teachers cram it on us that you have to do this, you have to do that, we are unable to sustain it. So what do you think that we should do for sustaining these good practices?
Okay. If you must have seen the sequel, and when I say it's my favorite sequel, and I'm very happy that I have designed that sequel for myself. In that, it starts with initiative and ends with success, and in between there is something called as ownership,
Yeah.
which is most vital. Most vital. I'll give you a small example. When I'm saying ownership is with a project, a particular project, if I'm carrying out a work which I'm doing, or any activity for that matter. Now, let's say, for example, I'll give you an example of a watch which I am wearing, or you are wearing. Okay. If you are wearing a watch, and if I come and challenge you by saying that what a lousy watch you have weared, you could have had another options. You could have gone out and gone to Titans. You could have gone to Fast Track and have more choices and could have bought a better watch. How will you feel? You feel distracted. You feel offended. Why? Because you have already gone into 10 shops and you have seen 150 models and you have chosen one. And now, although that watch is of Titan, you have not manufactured it, but you have gathered ownership for that particular watch. And that ownership is what matters. That is why in that process, initiative is a must. Eventually, involvement, passion, ownership, that's a sequel. You try and do it, believe me, it will work in the same fashion. So far, to my knowledge, there is no alternative to this sequel. A simple sequel, but most important is that we should have an initiative. We should volunteer ourselves. That is why, as you said, our parents keep telling us. But are we convinced with everything what our parents tell us? We do that at a later date because we want to do it. That is ownership. When my father tells me something, see, I remember when I was a college going guy, my father used to tell me a lot of things, and I used to either ignore because I was probably of independent thoughts and I never wanted somebody to tell me something. But now at this age, now I am feeling perceived, convinced that whatever my father that time was telling me was all that right. So it's a matter of choice and it's a matter of ownership what we need to develop for ourselves for a particular subject. And then everything happens. Believe me, everything happens. But ownership is most vital.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mukul. Thanks a lot.
रेणू, you can ask. तू विचारू शकतेस. Yes, रेणू.
Yeah.
रेणू, आवाज नाही येते तुमचा.
Hello,
हा, आता येतोय.
there is something doing that or something.
नाही, आवाज ब्रेक होतोय मॅडम.
अच्छा, हमारा इंटरनेट कनेक्शन में था. I think my internet. Hello. Hello.
हा,
Yes.
येतोय.
हा. So कसं असतं की काही काही सिच्युएशन मध्ये म्हणजे रिॲक्शन देताना किंवा काही चुकीची किंवा वाईट रिॲक्शन देताना if I'm angry on if I get angry on someone, I feel like slapping him. I don't hesitate. I don't go personally. I just go and slap him. Okay, but when I have to praise someone or when I have to do something good, I usually prolong it or procrastinate. So what is the why is it? What is going on in the mind?
Voice is not clear.
Okay.
आधी शौनकला प्रश्न विचारून घेऊ दे आणि मग रेणू जरा कॅन वर्क ऑन इन कनेक्शन.
Yeah, Shaunak.
आवाज येतोय माझा?
हो.
व्हेरी मच. तुझाच आवाज ऐकतोय पहिल्यापासून.
सो म्हणजे सत्र एकदम सुंदरच झालं. म्हणजे आता माझ्या पॉइंटला मला फार गरज होती या सेशनची, अशी म्हणे पर्सनली म्हणे. म्हणजे बऱ्याच गोष्टींसाठी. फक्त मला एक थोडा प्रश्न असा, हायपोथेटिकल सिच्युएशनला माझा प्रश्न आहे की 2 टास्क असतात आपल्याकडे, टास्क ए टास्क बी आपण असं म्हणू त्या एबीसीडीच्या ह्याच्यामध्ये. टास्क ए जो असतो तो आता म्हणजे सगळ्यात व्हायटल तो असतो की आय मस्ट डू नाऊ, पण त्याचा इम्पॅक्ट माझ्या फक्त पुढच्या 1 वर्षावर होणार असतो, त्या टास्कच्या रिझल्टचा इम्पॅक्ट. अँड आय हॅव टास्क बी जो आता तेवढा महत्वाचा नाहीये, बट इट इज गोइंग टू हॅव इम्पॅक्ट ऑन माय लाईक 5 to 6 years मोर दॅन दॅट. तर अशा सिच्युएशन मध्ये मग काय कसं प्रेफर करायचं?
See, you yourself said something which is not important. Something which is not important. And that is where you have to use the creative procrastination. We should be able to weed out something which is not important. Then it's a matter of time. See, must do is what? There cannot be 6 must do's. No, there could be 3 must do's. That also in order. That is why we said A1, A2, A3. You have all A's as must do, and then you have segregated them into A1, A2, A3, and that's why I said unless and until we finish the A3, we should not start B. So one is that it has got a lot to do with importance rather than urgency. Something what is important, something which is going to impact, is going to be treated first. So no matter how fast I want to have it.
Okay.
Ajendra.
मी ते तुझं छान झालं हे.
Oh yes.
बऱ्याच नवीन गोष्टी कळल्या. पण एक मला इग्नोरन्सची जी तुझ्या स्लाइड मध्ये इग्नोरन्सचं जे डेफिनेशन आहे ते नक्की काय आहे? कारण तू त्याच्या पुढे लिहिलं होतं की आय डू नॉट वॉन्ट टू लिसन टू समथिंग असं.
राईट. लेट मी एलॅबोरेट वन्स अगेन. त्यामध्ये असं आहे, इग्नोरन्सचा बेसिक अर्थ म्हणजे लक्ष न देणे, फॉर एक्झाम्पल.
नाही तिथेच माझं मतभेद आहे. इग्नोरन्सचा अर्थ असा आहे अज्ञान. इग्नोरिंग आणि इग्नोरन्स मध्ये फरक आहे.
ओके.
इग्नोरिंग इज समथिंग व्हॉट यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. किंवा मला लक्ष द्यायचं नाहीये किंवा मला हे करायचं आहे. इग्नोरन्स इज अज्ञान. एखाद्या गोष्टीचं अज्ञान.
फाईन. आय टेक युअर पॉइंट.
हा, तर मला ते जरा थोडस.
शुअर आय विल करेक्ट दॅट.
हा, ते तेवढं करेक्ट कर. दुसरं असं की आपण तू जर म्हणालास की वी टेन टू डू इझी थिंग्स फर्स्ट. हे अशा वेळी बहुतेक वेळी हे म्हणजे हे तसं 100% खरं नाही. कारण काय, इट ऑल्सो डिपेंड्स ऑन द सर्कमस्टान्सेस. फॉर एक्झाम्पल शाळेत असताना आम्हाला सांगितलं होतं की परीक्षेच्या पेपरमध्ये जे सोपे प्रश्न आहेत ते आधी सोडवा आणि तेवढे मार्क्स खिशात घाला आणि मग डिफिकल्ट आन्सर्स कडे जा. तुम्ही सुरुवातीला जर कठीण प्रश्न घेतला तर त्याच्यात तुमचा जास्त वेळ गेला तर तुमचे इझी क्वेश्चन ज्याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला सहज मार्क मिळाले असते ते राहून जातील. त्यामुळे वी डोंट टेन टू डू इझी थिंग्स ऑलवेज. इट इज अ व्हॉट यू कॉल एज कॉन्शियस चॉईस.
राईट.
हा, तर ते तेवढंच एक मला वाटायचं होतं. आणि एक माझी 2 ओळीची कविता आहे ती ह्याच विषयावरची आहे.
हो येस.
म्हणून मी हे केलं की त्याचं शीर्षक आहे डायरी. की माझ्या डायरीच्या अनेक पानांवर एकच नोंद आहे. माझ्या डायरीच्या अनेक पानांवर एकच नोंद आहे. आज मनासारखे जगणे जमले नाही, उद्या नक्की. आज मनासारखे जगणे जमले नाही, उद्या नक्की. तू इथे सांगतो कल पक्का आहे, उद्या नक्की.
ऍब्सोल्युटली.
थँक्यू.
रेणू, तुझं कनेक्शन बरोबर.
जयंतराव, दिस कल पक्का, आय विल टेल यू, देयर इज अनदर सिग्निफिकन्स टू इट. एस्पेशली इन आवर सेल्स. आमच्याकडे प्रत्येक सेल्स मध्ये टार्गेट्स असतात, प्रोडक्शन मध्ये पण टार्गेट्स असतात. आणि नॉट दॅट एव्हरी टाइम वी मीट देम. प्रत्येक वेळेला टार्गेट्स अचीव्ह होत नाही. मग मंथ एंडच्या सिच्युएशनला दरवेळेला असा एक सिंड्रोम, असे एक बिहेव्हिअरल पॅटर्न असतो प्रत्येक सेल्सच्या माणसाचा, की पुढच्या महिन्यात मी 110% नक्की करणार. आणि ही थॉट प्रोसेस जी आहे ही फक्त 31 तारखेलाच असते. 1-2 तारखेपर्यंत, त्याच्यानंतर ती हळूहळू विरत जाते आणि पुन्हा नवीन 31 तारीख येते. त्यामुळं कल पक्का हा जो प्रकार आहे हा खूप कॉमन आहे बऱ्याचशा, एस्पेशली जिथे टार्गेट ड्रिव्हन असतात, त्यामुळे तिथे प्रत्येकाला जस्टिफाय करायचं असतं की मी का नाही करू शकलो, म्हणून तो मग देन ही इज ट्राइंग टू कन्सोल अँड देन ही सेज कल पक्का, आज नाही कल पक्का करूंगा.
रेणूचा आणि शशांक कुमार असे दोघांचे प्रश्न आहेत. आपण आधी प्रश्न घेऊ आणि मग विल मूव्ह टुवर्ड्स अदर कमेंट्स. रेणू,
या शशांक.
हॅलो.
हा मॅडम. विनोद काय प्रश्न आहे?
आय डोंट, मी रेणू गांधीचा प्रश्न वाचून दाखवतो.
प्लीज.
आय डोंट हेजिटेट इन डुईंग रॉंग ऍक्शन्स बट आय डिले गुड ऍक्शन्स. व्हॉट्स गोइंग ऑन इन माय माइंड or how my mind is processing. Though these spontaneous or not so good actions are going to still why my mind choose trouble me in future. मी परत एकदा असतो, I don't hesitate in doing wrong actions but I delay good actions. What's going on in my mind or how my mind is processing हा प्रश्न आहे. Though these spontaneous or not so good actions are going to trouble me in future, still why my mind choose to procrastinate.
See, procrastination as such is a very natural process. One is that is why we have given n number of reasons. One is that normally it is felt ki lethargy is the reason, but that's not the only reason. There are a lot of other reasons. We need to find out why am I procrastinating. Whether I don't have a knowledge about subject, whether I don't have a clarity on the subject. See, we are agreeing that I am procrastinating, right? And we are saying that I am not hesitating to do wrong things. So if I am not hesitating to do wrong things, there we are not procrastinating. There we are willingly doing wrong things. Are you getting my point? But we need to understand certain things which are not of my choice. We normally procrastinate what? Something which is not of my choice, something which I dislike, something on which I don't have a confidence to perform. So what we need to understand is which are those things I am procrastinating, and because of lack of what? Lack of knowledge, lack of clarity. That is what we need to understand.
प्रश्न आहे.
सर नमस्कार.
नमस्कार.
सत्र फार छान झालं. माझा एक क्वेश्चन होता की बऱ्याचदा असं होतं की आपल्याकडे एक काम दिलेलं असतं आणि ते आपण प्रोक्रॅस्टिनेट करतो आणि ते लक बाय चान्स ऍट द एंड ऑफ द मंथ किंवा एंड ऑफ द मोमेंटला ते चांगलं पण होऊन जातं. आणि एकदा दोनदा तीनदा झालं ना का आपण ते तसंच काम जर आलं परत तर ते चाल ढकल करत जातो. मग याच्यावरती काही सोल्युशन सांगाल तुम्ही की लक बाय चान्स एखादं काम चांगलंही होऊन जातं पण मग ते आपण पुढे नेण्याचा प्रयत्न करत जातो आणि हे म्हणजे माझ्यासोबत बऱ्याचदा झालंय असं म्हणून विचारतो.
लक बाय चान्स किंवा फ्लूक ही जी ऍक्टिव्हिटी आहे ना, दॅट इट सेल्फ इज लक बाय चान्स. ती प्रत्येक वेळेला नाही होत. एव्हरी टाइम यू कांट एस्केप बाय दिस लक बाय चान्स काइंड ऑफ अ सिच्युएशन. So if it is repeatedly luck by chance, if it is happening, then probably you are doing a right thing. Then it is not by luck by chance.
Kedar, fear is one big factor जो
Yes, it is.
करायला भाग पाडतो. How do you overcome that fear?
See, fear, that is precisely, fear can go away how? Fear can go away the moment, let's say, eating the frog concept काय आहे? It says pick up the uglier one consciously. Consciously pick up the uglier one and don't stare at the frog because it will start looking ugly. So something similar to that, if you look at fear, आपण ज्यावेळेला पाण्यात उडी मारायचे ज्यावेळेला विचार करतो, when we are learning to swim, that time also we try to procrastinate. आपण काठावर उभे असतो पण आपण उडी मारत नाही. मग आपण when we decide to swim, when we decide to learn to swim, only then we come out of the fear factor. So we have to prepare ourselves basically for the particular objective, achievement of that objective. म्हणजे म्हणूनच इनिशिएटिव्ह घेण्याचा जो प्रकार आहे, इट्स नॉट व्हेरी इझी. वेन वी टॉक अबाउट टेकिंग अ इनिशिएटिव्ह, इट्स नॉट व्हेरी इझी प्रोसेस. आपण जसं म्हणतो व्हॉलंटिअरिंग, आपण व्हॉलंटिअरिंग करताना सुद्धा देयर इज अ फिअर फॅक्टर. दॅट फिअर फॅक्टर अगेन इज बिकॉज ऑफ व्हॉट? ऑल्दो आय डोंट हॅव अ कॉन्फिडन्स और आय डोंट नो की मी समजा उभं राहिलो किंवा माझ्यामध्ये जी भीती आहे त्या भीतीमुळे एखादी गोष्ट चुकीची झाली तर काय. सो मेनी अर टाइम्स इट हॅपन्स दॅट यू हॅव टू गेट इन टू इट अँड डू इट. ते म्हणतात ना, इफ यू डोंट नो समथिंग, फेक इट अँड इव्हेंच्युअली यू विल मेक इट. तसा हा प्रकार आहे. यू हॅव टू टेक इनिशिएटिव्ह, यू हॅव टू गेट इन टू अन ऍक्ट, अँड ओव्हर अ पिरियड ऑफ टाइम यू विल रिअलाइज दॅट दिस फिअर वॉज युजलेस. कारण रिस्क किंवा भीती हा जो प्रकार आहे, इफ यू इवन टॉक अबाउट risk also is when you do something which you don't know what you are doing. तुम्ही काय करता हे तुम्हाला माहिती असलं तर तुम्हाला ती रिस्क वाटत नाही. समथिंग सिमिलर टू दॅट, की भीती हा जो प्रकार आहे, वन्स यू डू इट अँड देन यू आर थ्रू. सो येस, ऑफकोर्स दॅट फिअर, गेटिंग अवे फ्रॉम फिअर will take time. Then what happens is you start, how the fear goes away normally. You start observing others performing. Then you suddenly realize that अरे इनको तो कुछ हुआ नहीं है. Whatever fear I had in my mind, that it doesn't appear to be there. So there is nothing wrong which is happening. Something what I thought this will happen, that will happen, it is not happening. So when you observe people doing certain tasks, and then when you see them successfully doing it, that also provokes you to get out of that fear and do certain things, certain acts.
मुकुंद करकरेंना काय बोलायचं?
या मुकुंद.
झालं आणि आवडला. म्हणजे तुझा असा काही हे ऐकला नव्हता कधी सेशन. आणि बऱ्याच दिवसांनी तू सिरियसली बऱ्याच वेळ बोलत होता असं वाटलं. यू आर मोर ॲट स्माइलिंग अँड लाफिंग असं असतं बोलणं तुझं.
ट्रू.
पण
अरे
असं
मी प्रोक्रॅस्टिनेशन सब्जेक्ट बघितल्यावर मी हसू गेलं माझं, मला वाटतंय.
आणि सध्याच्या सिच्युएशनला फार महत्वाचं आहे, बिकॉज एव्हरीथिंग इज गेटिंग प्रोक्रॅस्टिनेटेड बिकॉज ऑफ द सर्कमस्टन्सेस.
यू आर ॲब्सोल्युटली राईट.
वेअर या लॉकडाऊन मुळे सगळ्यांचाच सगळं हे झालेलं आहे. सो दिस इज डेफिनेटली अ नाईस सब्जेक्ट.
थँक्यू.
आणि आय नेव्हर थॉट की ह्याच्यावरती एखादं सेशन असू शकेल. प्रोक्रॅस्टिनेशन मध्ये हा हे आहे, मॅनेजमेंट मधला महत्वाचा हे होता, पण असं एखादं सेशन त्याच्यावरती असू शकेल किंवा होऊ शकेल, नेव्हर थॉट ऑफ.
Mugun, initially when I thought about choosing this subject, I was also trying to find my own feet.
Acha. Okay.
Then I tried to take some real-time examples in my own life. And then I thought, yes, now I can confidently speak about it because this is exactly what I've done in my past.
माझ्या एज ग्रुप मधल्या बऱ्याच जणांना पास्ट आठवेल ह्याच्यामुळे. आय एम शुअर. अँड दॅट्स गुड. थँक्यू फॉर.
शेवटचा प्रश्न घेऊन मला वाटतं विशाल जोशीने काही बोलायचं.
हा, इनिशिएटिव्ह घेतात म्हणतात ना, तर त्यावेळी काही वेळा वाटतं की काही लोकांना की हे पुढे पुढे करतात, म्हणजे असं की इनिशिएटिव्ह घेताना. तर मग हे व्ह्यू बरोबर आहे का?
Ultimately, who wants to be successful?
स्वतःलाच
आपल्याला सक्सेसफुल व्हायचंय ना.
ओके.
So why should we bother about the rest of the world, frankly?
Okay. Thank you.
Just go ahead. People will forget. नंतर लोक विसरून जातात सगळ्या गोष्टी. आपल्याला वाटत असतं की सगळे माझ्याकडे बघतायत, कोणी बघत नसतं आपल्याकडे.
थँक्यू.
Oh yes.
Right now 50 झाले and still we have 20 people on board, 25 people on board.
Oh yeah, I'm very happy.
That itself talks about the session. खूप चांगलं सत्र झालं.
Thank you.
आणि थँक्स अ लॉट. आणि आम्हाला याच्या पुढे काही विषय असेल तर आपण नक्की वी विल कम टुगेदर.
शुअर शुअर.
पुढचं सत्र गुरुवारचं, पुढच्या सत्राचं 159वं सत्र अगेन मुवमेंट टू शेअर. पण पुढचं 159वं सत्र हे अनिल अवचटांना श्रद्धांजलीचं सत्र असणार आहे. त्यामुळे सगळ्यांनी नक्की या. पुढच्या गुरुवारची अनाउन्समेंट मेसेज तुमच्यापर्यंत पोहोचेलच. आज आपण इथे थांबू. जे नवीन आहेत त्यांचं स्वागत आहे समूहामध्ये. ज्यांना एक लिंक शेअर केली, तुम्ही त्या शब्दांगाच्या समूहाचा भाग बनू शकता. जस्ट क्लिक ऑन द लिंक आणि यू कॅन बी मेंबर. धन्यवाद. थँक्यू.
थँक्यू विनोद. थँक्स अ लॉट.
येस, थँक्यू व्हेरी मच. आपलं सध्या युट्यूबवर आहे, मी लिंक शेअर करेन आज.
हो येस, प्लीज प्लीज.
येस. ओके.